to the 841 Brew House here in Whitewater for another edition of the UW-Whitewater Quarterback Club and KOOL 106.5 Coaches Show. Along with Josh Smith from D3Football.com, I'm Gary Douglas, and we welcome in the head coach, the undefeated head coach of the UW-Whitewater Warhawks, Kevin Bullis. Congratulations on your initial win.
Oh, thanks. I mean, it was, to say the least, a thrill. The guys surprised me at the end of the game, gave me the game ball, and it's been a whirlwind since, to be quite candid. But considering that we had a nice 13-hour bus ride on the way home, I had a chance to absorb it then.
All right. Before we go any farther, we should mention we have several guests on the program this evening. Coming up a little bit later on, we'll be talking to your new offensive coordinator, Craig Smith. Also, we'll have a couple of players coming up here as well. John Flood and Chris Nelson will be joining us in the second segment of the program. And boy, they both had good games on Saturday.
They really did. John was really disruptive. That our quarterback had a couple sacks, and above and beyond that was chasing around a lot as well. So, and Chris just had a fantastic game. It was his first game out as a starter for us, and for him to go out, and his decision making was fantastic. I mean, we didn't throw the ball a lot because basically the game plan and the structure of what they were giving us kind of dictated that. But Chris is the guy that gets us in and out of plays, and he did a great job of being the offensive brain on the field.
And how about the efficiency? Like you mentioned, you didn't have to throw the ball a whole lot, just 9 attempts for Chris, but completed 6 of those.
Oh, not a question. I mean, those are the things that you really take into account, and is that being efficient as a quarterback. The stat that, like I said, people don't see is his decision making in the sense of making checks with plays, making those types of decisions. Everybody looks at the completions and attempts all the time, but Chris really showed great poise out there. We were very pleased with him.
We'll talk more about the details of the game in just a moment, but one of the things I was very impressed with, and we talked about it last week, in having been so long before you got that first game of the season, then the long bus ride, I thought the team really came right onto the field and played very well right from the beginning of that game.
The thing is, I mean, we'd had 25 practices prior to that game, and so, it's, you come into camp and the players are pretty fired up in those first 4, 5, 10 practices, but then after a while it gets to a point where, Johnny Wiederholt gets tired of running into John Flood all the day, every day, and so the players are just so excited that they had a chance to just go out and compete against someone else. Our guys really enjoy traveling. They really do. They enjoy the travel piece, and they did a great job with it.
They sleep so well on the bus. I know I got up in the middle of the night to try to go to the back of the bus, and I stepped over 2 or 3 people, and nobody said anything. So apparently they got pretty used to traveling.
They sleep a lot better on the bus than you and I, Gary.
Yeah, they certainly do. They certainly do. You had to be very pleased, as I mentioned, with how well the team started out in that game. But we were talking earlier today, Kevin, and the fact that you were able to get everybody into the ball game on Saturday afternoon, and that's got to be a great experience because they're getting game experience and they're being able to play against other players, and that's going to help them, especially the younger guys further down the road.
Not a question. To be in that situation, there's so many benefits to a lot of guys playing the game. Obviously, it's great for team morale because everybody's feeling good that they contributed that day, but it also really helps you build your depth, and I think that's something that over the years, that I've been here, being in my 8th season right now, is those opportunities taking advantage of that so that your seconds and thirds get out there in a game situation and develop confidence in themselves in a game situation. So that if we did have we hope to not have one of our starters get injured, but when it does happen, you feel very confident that those people that are behind them have had a lot of game experience, and this was one of those opportunities.
Well, obviously the players are anxious and anticipating that first game, but how did you feel leading up to your first game as a head coach, and maybe how did the rest of the coaching staff feel as they were approaching their first game in new roles?
And that's the thing that, to me, that I feel really good about that we did during the course of our camp, and especially, with 2 new coordinators, and we did a lot of simulations. We did a lot of simulations in the sense that we had a scrimmage, we had referees, we had the clock rolling, we had those types of things happening. We did simulations, I don't know how many 2-minute simulations and 4-minute drill simulations that we did, that those are the things, and we did simulations where we even practiced just our sideline management, even our pregame. I'm not kidding you, we literally practiced our pregame and those things to really build that confidence so that when we get into the game situation, it's not the first time we've been here. Does that make sense? Even though it was our first game, we'd simulated a lot of those things during the course of camp to make sure that we didn't surprise ourselves or feel, at unease. Let's put it that way.
To follow up on Josh's question, Kevin, you weren't playing just any ordinary football team per se, because Hal Mummy's team, they have the spread offense. They were throwing the ball anytime they could, which I thought was kind of too bad because they had a couple running backs that looked pretty good on that team that I thought they should have maybe given them the ball a little bit more on the ground. But you talked about it earlier, the quick kicks and all those onside kicks and all those different things. There were a lot of different things they kind of had to comprehend going into that game.
Not a question. I mean, and that was really, in the sense of the challenges in my, 27 years of coaching, whatever it is, I've lost count now. But I've never played a team like that, where you were pretty confident they probably were going to kick an onside. You were pretty confident they were going to fake the punt. So I mean, it really puts you, it's a very unique, and it is uneasy as a coach, but we spent a lot of time on it. I mean, Coach O'Grady, our special teams coordinator, put a great plan together with our lead coaches on having a preparation for the fake punts, having preparation for those onsides, and we were successful in every one of those scenarios that had happened during the course of the game.
With that uncertainty, how did it feel to come out, get a nice defensive stop, and then just march down the field? Did that calm some of those some of those concerns?
Not a question. That was so important that we, Hal Mummy, what he tries to do with these things, with the fake punts, with the fake onsides, and all those things that he tries to do with throwing the ball all the time, all day, is he's really trying to grab the momentum. He's trying to take the tempo and control the tempo of the game. And for us to be able to go and get that 3 and out right off the bat, that's the antithesis of what he wants to happen. And then when we were able to go out and, structurally, their defense was giving us, what Coach Smith, looked at it and said, hey, we can run the ball well against this team, which really fit the mentality of saying, hey, Coach Mummy, we're not going to give it back to you quickly. We're going to pound and take it, have 8-minute drives and do those types of things, and we're really going to control the clock ourselves in our tempo. And Chris Nelson was able to go out there and lead the offense to execute Coach Smith's plan.
Do you feel bad that you did not get a chance, and maybe we can ask Chris this a little bit, I know what he'll say when we get him on the program coming up, but do you feel bad that you weren't able to pass the football more in that game to see what your passing game is going to look like this year?
There's going to be games where, people are going to give us the opportunity to throw the ball a lot. There's teams that are going to give us the opportunity to run the ball a lot. And that's always been really what we've done at UW-Whitewater, and that's really Coach Smith is philosophically consistent with that. Yeah, there's going to be games where I think Jordan Ratliff's going to hope the ball was handed to him a little bit more. You know what I mean? But based off of, it's really math. If they have too many people around the box, the tackle box, well, we're going to throw the ball. I mean, it's that simple. If they have too many people in coverage, well, then we're going to run the ball. And that's the very simplistic way that we look at it structurally. So yeah, there's going to be some games where you're going to think, boy, they didn't run it very much. There's going to be some games, boy, you didn't pass it very much. Obviously, when you got that offensive line that Johnny Weeder holds a part of, boy, that's kind of a fun group to run the ball behind too.
Absolutely. And before the show started with the quarterback club here beforehand, you had some players introduce themselves, and a couple of guys had earned Player of the Week recognition for various honors and that. But with a lopsided win to start the season like this, is there a performance or two that really stood out to you as kind of going above and beyond?
Yeah, I think, the first one I've already mentioned it, so I'm being redundant. For Chris Nelson to go out in his first start and just be comfortable. You could tell Chris was comfortable and confident. That was great. I mean, and that's, especially since that position, a lot of weight lays on, you know what I mean? There was a number of, defensively, I mean, there was really did a great job. Vince Mason was in his first start as a corner, and he's one of the young men with us tonight. And Vince had 2 interceptions, had some batted balls. I mean, just had a great game. And a game that you would expect a veteran that had 2 years of starting. And so, I mean, it was really neat to see Vince go out and really just, again, look very comfortable, be extremely productive.
when you take a look at that long trip, and we've talked about it to a number of the people that are in the audience here tonight, players recover pretty well from it for the most part. Did you have to alter your plan this week at all to maybe allow for a little bit more recovery time? I know that they had their treatments right away Sunday morning when we got back, and we were able to kind of pick up right away on Monday with where you wanted to be for the game coming up this weekend.
You know, we really jumped right back into our normal routine, in the sense of a Saturday routine. Or, you know, after a Saturday game, what we do is we give our players Sunday off. That's their day off, and then Monday we bring them in for meetings. So we really, you know, they weren't back practicing until Tuesday, which is pretty typical. But Monday is when we we go through what we call the grading of the film with the players, and then we also introduce our next opponent. So we didn't really alter that routine, and that's, and you and I have talked about it before in the past, Gary, in the sense of how important routine is for coaches, but also more importantly for the players, whether it's a weekly routine or a daily routine. Those are the things that make you efficient, comfortable, and confident with what's coming.
We talk about some of those grades, and obviously it was an impressive win, a lot of positives. Were there any things that you'd like to see improved from Saturday?
Not a question. I mean, as a coach, you know, there's an old coach saying, you're never as good as you think you are, you're never as bad as you think you are. And that's reality. I mean, you can come out of that game saying we won 62-6 and think, wow, we've arrived, we're there. No, we're not. We have not arrived. And the players would tell you that. I mean, they watch the film and know, wow, I made mistakes. You know, yeah, there were some really key elements that we feel that are very important for us to be able to compete in our conference. We need to improve significantly. I mean, we got to finish our blocks better. We got to communicate better on defense. We got to tackle better on defense. It's what it is. That's, you know, as a coach, you're always looking at what is the next thing we got to work on.
Before we go any farther, I just wanted to mention one of your staff, Tim Baldry, who's the Director of Football Operations, and I was not aware of this until after we had breakfast on, I think it was Friday morning, we had breakfast, that he had planned out this entire trip for a long time, and then at the very last minute you get a curve thrown at you as far as where the team is going to have breakfast. What do we have, 93 traveling, I think, on the trip, something like that? And Tim was able to get something worked out with the University of Memphis, which I thought was just outstanding.
Yeah, Tim is amazingly resourceful, because I mean, and he's the one that makes the routine happen for us and gets everything scheduled, everything from hotel rooms to meals to, you know, all the different pieces of that trip. And he has the most, maybe the most stressful job in a lot of ways. And yeah, you got a curveball thrown at him. The restaurant that said that they were going to feed us breakfast decided they didn't want to open up at 8 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, but Memphis University was more than happy to have us there, and they were extremely hospitable.
Yeah, they were.
It was a great day. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was very, very nice, and so a special thanks to Tim for that, because we've had a lot of trips over the years, and there's always something that comes up every once in a while with that sort of stuff.
That's guaranteed.
It certainly is. It certainly is. Of course, we've got our home opener coming up in Saturday afternoon at Perkins Stadium. A little bit later on in the program, Kevin will talk about Finlandia, our next opponent, and some of the special things that they've got coming up for the home opener. So we'll have you rejoin us coming up in a few minutes here on our coaches program.
Looking forward to it.
All right, that's head coach Kevin Bullis picking up his first win of the season. When we come back, we'll talk to quarterback Wisconsin and defensive end John Flood. They'll join us here as the coaches show, and the UW-Whitewater Quarterback Club continues after this timeout here on KOOL 106.5 and online at 940WFAW.com.